This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.
Welcome back into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. I'm Travis Creasy alongside my partners in crime, Ben Hayes, Will Mahan. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great, Travis. I'm excited about today and about what all we're going to get to accomplish in this podcast today. Will, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing really well. A little nervous. Anytime we have a former teacher of one of ours on the podcast, it could get a little scary. So why don't you go ahead and introduce us to who our guest is today?
Yeah, we have Denise Willingham here of Mars Hill Bible School fame. She is a PE teacher there, has been so for a long time. A lot of other people in the area know her. I heard you guys talking about this earlier as a swim teacher as well for the kids through the summertime. She's taught a couple of my kids how to swim, and I'm sure there's some other people out there listening that have. Also, fun little note we mentioned last time is that this is the mother of Josh Willingham that we had on the program with his wife Ginger. And so, Denise, we're really excited to have you with us. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking me to come. Thanks.
Well, we are really excited about getting to hear some of the things that you have to tell us. And so why don't you tell us, I've already introduced a little bit about you, but you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I was Denise Foster, and I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. Married to David Willingham for 43 years. It's a long time.
Congratulations.
And I have 2 sons, Josh and John, and 3 grandsons. I do teach at Mars Hill now. I'm starting my 35th year, and I taught 2 years at public schools before I had children. I teach PE and art, and I do teach swimming in the summer. So that's always good and fun. I have done a lot of different things there. I've been cheerleader sponsor, tennis coach. I've also taught health at one point early in my career. So those are some of the things that I do. I love to travel. I love to read. I love to work out. So that's a little bit about me in one little spot there.
Awesome.
Well, awesome. I know, Miss Denise, being at Mars Hill, you definitely have quite a few stories. I know I always love coming into the gym, see Miss Willingham and Miss Brewer. You were always going to be met with a smile, and you know that everything was going to be good when you saw the 2 of you. But any crazy stories from teaching PE and just dealing with kids that you may have?
Well, you know, kids are always funny. My mom always used to say, why don't you write everything down so you'll remember it? And so you don't. But I was thinking when Ben gave me a couple of little things to think about, and I was thinking about a little girl in kindergarten. I think it's been a couple of years now. And I don't know if you know, another job of mine is the tooth pulling girl at the school.
That's right.
So the kids have waited until their teeth are dropping out, and then they want me to pull it. So anyway, this one kindergartner had waited, and I don't pull teeth except on Fridays because that's my tooth pulling day. If I didn't say that, it would be the whole PE time I would be pulling teeth. So only on Fridays, free day Friday, I pull teeth. But anyway, this little girl had waited, and she wanted me to pull it. So I said, you sure? Okay. So she walked up. It was her first tooth. And so I just kind of flicked it out, you know, and her eyes got so big. And so she didn't really know. So anyway, during the period, I looked around, I kind of missed her. And so I went to the restroom and opened the door, and she was looking in the mirror going, oh. So anyway, I mean, we just screamed laughing, Miss Brewer and I. So anyway, that's something like that is happening all the time. What the kids say, and
I've
it's
heard
a
them
lot of
talk
fun.
about that a lot. I've heard them talk about you as the tooth puller. So the question that we have to ask is, because I've been at Mars Hill, I guess, for about 35 years too, in some form or fashion. Because I started when I was 5. So I hesitate to ask, do you have any stories on Will? I'm not going to ask about me. Do you have any stories on Will or me from those times?
Well, I was thinking about Will. It's not. It's a good story, Will. I mean, when Will was there, he did help a lot with Junior Pro, and I remember that you all helped us, and Miss Brewer, and so running that Junior Pro program, which no longer exists. Now everybody plays in the travel ball, but it was a lot of fun, and it lasted for probably 30 years, I guess, out there. But I remember you doing that.
Junior Pro was, I mean, that was a big deal at Mars Hill growing up. So I hated to hear that was no longer existing anymore.
I think they do still have in the younger kindergarten.
They still do a little bit, but I think our kids have been playing the last couple of years. So
it was huge back in the day. It was full day Saturdays.
Yeah, as far as Ben's concerned now, we are early morning car duty people, and we have shared a lot of cold and rainy days. So we're
absolutely
well,
I'll tell on myself. I remember back when I was at Mars Hill, David, her husband, was the basketball coach for a little bit of that time. I think he kind of shifted out of that before I really got into high school good, but I think about my 9th grade year or so, I have this claim to fame that I tried out for the basketball team like almost every year and never made it. But I would go through conditioning, and for some reason that was the part that I would actually go through. And I remember going up to David during a practice, and I was trying to be like really calm about it and quiet, and I was like, "Hey, I need to run to the restroom." And he goes, "What? What? You need to go to the bathroom?" And he was screaming as loud as he could, and I was like, "Yeah, I do," and I don't know why that stuck in my head. It must have been traumatic because it has been infused into my brain ever since. So you can share that with him. But anyway,
he's got that gym voice for sure.
He does. Yeah, there's no quiet. It was all loud.
All out there. So
anyway, interesting.
Well, as this year, I'm coaching PE K through 5th grade. And the other day I tried to do kindergarten without a whistle, and that was stressful. Very stressful. Before I get to our next question, is there a record of how many teeth you've pulled in one Friday?
Well, I'll tell you this. One year I decided that I would write down everybody's teeth that I pulled that year. And I pulled 100 and something that one year. So I'm thinking, okay, if I pull even close to 100 teeth a year, I have not counted just on Fridays, but I did count for the year. So anyway, 100 for a year.
Wow.
That's a solid amount. I mean,
that's a lot of teeth.
Parents have you to thank for a lot of money going out.
I usually say, I get half the tooth fairy money, but that doesn't really work.
That doesn't work, but you'd be rolling in it. You'd be rolling in it. As we kind of shift and move forward and we look for more things to sink our teeth into. Sorry, I am a dad, so I can get away with dad joke. We typically on this show spend some time sort of bragging on God, and we like to have people share maybe a time in their life, their journey with Christ, some difficulties that may have caused your faith to be challenged. And, can you tell us a little bit about maybe a time in your life that you've faced that or been through that?
Sure. Of course, no doubt the most difficult challenge in my lifetime is been in 2009. Our youngest son, John, was killed in a car accident. So that was just really, really traumatic at anybody, at any time, but especially when you don't really expected, and so that was definitely the most challenging time in our lives, and I just don't know how people make it without God and their Christians, friends, and family, because there is no way that you can mentally, physically, or emotionally make something that tragic to turn out for something good, unless you've got God to guide you along the way and to literally whisper in your ear, go this way or go that way. So that has been challenging, but all things work together, and through something very tragic, some things have come out that have been a blessing to us as well as other people too.
Miss Denise, you mentioned that story and everything that happened there, but in that time, how did you see God working in your life? What are some things that you possibly learned about God through this tragic, time in your family's life?
Right. Well, I just say that I know, be still and know that I'm God, and that everybody can know that and say that, but I really do feel like that it just taught me to kind of slow down and to listen, be very tuned in to my thoughts, my own thoughts. I think God speaks to us in lots of different ways, through maybe a scripture or a book, through a thought that that's not an original thought of my own, and I think he speaks to us through a friend. He sends people and voices and songs and scripture at the time that he knows you need it the most. So that's, I feel like that he told me at some point, or that I was aware that he wanted me to use love and grace as my lens to see the world. So, you just kind of change your perspective on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So were there, during those times as you were kind of, looking at those things and seeing those things, did you really learn anything maybe particularly, and I know Will kind of brought this up, particularly about God, or maybe even about God's people that you didn't know beforehand?
Well, I'm going to tell you just a story about, okay, so the first year is, everything is the first without, this or that. So Christmas, this happened June 13th in 2009, and so Christmas was just not going to be happening at our house. It just wasn't going to be there. But a friend, I went to school, and a friend, when I came home that day, a friend had come home and decorated a tree for me, gotten a tree from somewhere, I don't know, artificial tree, and decorated. So, how special was that? I will never, ever forget that. That's a little bitty thing, but something that's so doable. It makes me realize literally that God can he can do anything, but he can put people in your life exactly where you need it, right at that particular time, to do just what you need him to do. And for sure, those types of things. And then, as the years go by, you actually learn how to bring him back in. His favorite candle was like Christmas cookie candle. So every Thanksgiving and Christmas, what do? I give everybody a Christmas cookie candle, and we light it, and we feel like, that his presence is there. So, things like that you learn. But I also learned that God does give you the strength to handle what is out there for you. And if you need to be sad, you can be sad. If you need to stay in the bed for a day, that's okay. But, you got to get up and put one foot in front of the other, and God will give you the strength for that. People could not make it if he didn't. So I do know that he does give us the strength. He wants us to see hope instead of despair. He wants us to see light instead of darkness. That's what he wants from us. And so, we're all going to have something tragic in our life. We will. It's not the same, but whether it's your house burned down and you lose everything you've got, or, whatever, a sickness, or we'll all have something. So, but he gives us the strength for that, for sure.
I think that's the cool thing about this podcast, that statement, is everybody does go through something. Everybody has those. I tell people all the time that, the only reason we know people in the scriptures or we have these inspiring stories is because they went through something difficult.
Right.
And, inspiration or motivation, those motivational and inspirational stories are generally because something tough has happened. Travis has been through cancer, as you mentioned. Some people go through sickness, and we had Michael Whitworth on the show a couple of weeks ago, and Michael talked about a lot of the points that you did. And one of the things that he said that you brought up too is, he said, I look back and I see God putting people in my life who were going to make sure that I could make it. And in several other things he said that sort of reflected in what you said as well. I think it's important for us to something you brought out. I think that's really neat is you have to be looking and listening, paying attention.
Right.
God does speak and show and reveal Himself if we kind of have our eyes open to it. So it's pretty neat thing.
As we're getting ready for this interview this week, I've been posting Philippians 1 on our Twitter, and our Facebook, and one of the verses was, basically, I'm going to use this suffering. God has used my suffering, Paul, here in prison, to further the gospel. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit after our break.
What do you think of when I say school night dinners? Pretty sure you didn't think healthy, effortless, or relaxed. The back-to-school season is stressful under normal circumstances. Everyone has to readjust keeping a schedule after a couple of months of the laid-back pace of summer. This year, the adjustment period will be even bigger shock to the system, since many of us have been home for almost 5 months due to the COVID-19 school closings last spring. The readjustment to the faster pace of the daily work and school grind will be stress-inducing for everyone, and new school guidelines like mandatory face masks, temperature scan stations, and social distancing practices may make little ones even more prone to anxiety, even if they don't say it out loud. This year it will be even more important for us as parents to be attentive to our kiddos as we get back to a semi-normal routine this fall, checking in to make sure that they are faring well mentally and emotionally, and helping them process all of the changes they will be experiencing. I know what you're thinking. That's easier said than done. There are so many urgent things that have to be dealt with every evening, like cooking dinner, packing lunches, doing laundry, and homework, that it's easy for the more important things, like our kids' mental and emotional health, to take a back seat.
Hi, Whitney, Travis's other half here. How about a week's worth of easy weeknight dinners for your family? We've done the planning for you. As a parent, the hours between the end of the school day and bedtime are precious. During the school year, our kids spend more waking hours with their teacher than they do with us. I don't know about you, but I don't want to waste the majority of that precious time in the kitchen. But I still want to provide my family with a healthy, tasty, and budget-friendly dinner. That's why we're giving you a meal plan with a week's worth of quick and easy, almost hands-free dinners for your family, complete with a grocery list. So you can take meal planning, shopping, and cooking off your to-do list. Now you have quality time to spend with your family. You can tend to the urgent and the important things and still have a relaxed, unhurried meal at the table with your family. Go to benandtravis.com/meal plan to sign up. We will send the meal plan and grocery list straight to your inbox.
Welcome back into the second half of this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. We are been so blessed so far by Mrs. Willingham joining us, and we're going to jump right back on into our interview.
All right, Miss Denise, kind of before the break, you told us about the tragedy of losing your son, John, and kind of the things that you saw that God was doing in those moments. But let's move kind of to another side. And what did you learn about yourself? And maybe what did you learn about your family in those moments, in the human element of things?
Well, I will tell you this. The statistics show that 90, I want to say 5, it's very high percent of marriages never sustain the loss of a child. Yeah. That's very high. The statistics are very high. So we learned, David and I grieved very differently. And so we had to learn how to more or less give each other the space they needed, but yet give each other what they needed. And so, you learn that. You learn that yourself. You learn that about your family, your spouse. Josh was already playing professional ball, but it was very hard for him to go back to doing that, that year. I know that he and David talked, and David said, you gotta go back. You gotta go back to what your life was, and he did, and he kind of dedicated that year to John. But anyway, so I think another thing that God wants us, he wanted me to know that through hope that I could turn this heartbreak that we had into a chance to really grow closer to David, grow closer to God, to do those things. And so I think that was, hope is just everything. If you lose hope, it's just, so the hope of seeing him again, the hope of, what is to come, the hope of what his memory might do, and what we can do good because of his life and death. And so just all of that.
It's a tremendous example to see. We talked to Josh about his successes and the things that he did, but it's tremendous because I know people look at guys like that who play at such a high level, and we almost view them in a different view, like, well, they're untouchable, but that's not true. I mean, it's just like, Psalm 23, David is the man after God's own heart, but yet we see his valleys and we see these tragedies in his life. Some of them he brought on himself. But, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And, to see what you're doing, and we're going to get into that. That's our next question. How have you taken this, and as I said before the break, made it in the furtherance of the gospel, to use this event in your life and use it for good, which just has to drive Satan crazy. It just has to,
he thinks he's got
amazing.
Us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been such a blessing, and it's another God thing. I mean, your greatest fear is that nobody will remember, or that it will be a life that will be not remembered or thought about. So I know that some friends of mine we were just thinking, what can we do? And so a friend, she just said, why don't you do a run? So this was in 2010, and it was like the end of November, or maybe the end of October, 1st of November, and we just said, okay, in 6 weeks we're going to do a run. So we just put it together, ordered some T-shirts, and made some posters, and we did it. And we just decided that year that we would give the money. We made $6,000, okay? So we just decided that year we would just give the money to the Toy and Coke giveaway at Cross Point. And then after that, we got together. There's kind of a little core group that I call my Run2TheCross team. But we got together and we said, okay, now let's make a plan. What do we really want to do? So the next year we decided we really wanted to, water means life. Water is life. And so I said, let's dig a well. Let's make enough money that we can do a well. So that's kind of how we started. And so we dug a well the first year. The next year we dug 2 wells. Each year we about doubled our money. I've got a little list of things that we had done, but so the third year we actually dug another well, and another thing that was close to my heart was addiction recovery. So we started an addiction recovery program where I'm trying to think, I didn't count it up, but and I know Evan Radke would not mind me mentioning his name. We talk a lot. I know that he was the first guy we helped, and it was such a blessing to him, and he has helped so many people since. I don't know if you know him or not, but that's where we started our addiction recovery, and we've dug one well every year, and we also started some helping women in third world countries with microloans. And I don't know if you know anything about that, but we always help 5 women, and they start a business. Women in third world countries are usually the breadwinners for their family, and so they start a business. And when they can pay that money back, they pay it back, and then it goes toward another woman's microloan. So it's never ending. So that we feel like that's really a good way for our money to help a lot of people, as well as the wells. So every year we have dug a well. This year will be our 11th year to do it. Somebody told me one time that if you make it 10 years, you've made it. So last year was our 10th year, and
that's awesome.
So we've made it. This will be our 11th. We're planning it October the 1st, and to date, I know last year I think we had helped over 40 men and women in addiction recovery, and so I think it's probably now closer to 50. But we have some orphans that we support in Haiti and Zimbabwe. We support 2 counselors at Emmaus House in Haiti for their program there. I mean, we've done a lot. We always support all of our local meals, Room in the Inn, Isaiah's Call, Josh Willingham Foundation, as well as Common Grounds, which is for underprivileged children. We've always done that, but we try to reach out as far and wide as we can to help as many as we can.
And I mean, like Travis said, that has to drive Satan crazy. Like this tragedy that was so huge in your life, it was huge. But the amount of good that has developed, would those things have all happened had that not happened? And it's unbelievable what you guys have done, but I think we would all brag on God there,
Exactly.
on what God has done,
no doubt,
and made that. So how many wells? I may have missed that in the numbers.
I think this will be our 12th well. We've dug 12 wells. So all of these wells, the most impressive thing about a well, actually in 2014, I was blessed to go to Africa and see John's well. They named John's well the first well that we dug. Awesome. And so, but they dig the well first, and then they build the church, which also is a school, which also is the community center. And they have a huge garden because of this well, which all the people in the community can come and have vegetables. So all of this is just amazing, the way they do it.
So it's like, they're not just, this isn't just a well for a family.
That's exactly
this is
right.
a well for a whole community of
Mm-hmm.
people who then are also being exposed to the church, being exposed to the goodness of God in so many different ways. It's amazing. It's awesome.
It's been a really good, I mean, it's just, God has really blessed it. I mean, there's no way that a little old bitty organization started by a few little women that work full-time somewhere else can raise $46,000 last year. There's no way it can happen. Wow. The first year it was $6,000, and then we did 10 and 12. And the third year, John's number and David's number and Josh's number was 21. So we said, okay, let's raise 21,000. We just pull that number out of the hat. Well, we raised over 21,000. I mean, that's just, of course we pray for the run, all the time and every day. But I mean, over $46,000
that's awesome.
For nothing. I mean, just, what I'm saying? I mean, we support nobody. We don't have anybody on the payroll. The only thing we do is we do some printing and some mailing, and, that's it.
So can you tell people how to connect to that?
Sure.
And how to be a part of that? Because we want to make sure and push people.
Well, let me just, okay. It's www.Run2TheCross, all one letter, all small cap, 5K.org, I think. Okay. But hey, contact me. I'm available, and you can. We're going to have some posters around town, and Cross Point, show up at Cross Point at 4:30 for registration. The fun run starts at 5:30. The 5K starts about 10 till 6. But my favorite thing of the night is our candlelight devotional that we have after the run every year. And we always have somebody to speak that has benefited from our program. Last year, Jeb Stewart spoke, and it was phenomenal. And this year, we're going to have Macy Henderson, who is a student at Mars Hill. She will be singing. She's phenomenal. We pick out a perfect song. Actually, Rescue by Lauren Daigle is going to be our song that she's going to sing during
Travis likes Lauren Daigle.
She's going to sing, and she'll do a great job. She'll sing that during our devotional time, and then after it, she'll have a little song. But that's Josh awesome. Driscoll, he's coming down, and he's going to say a few words at the run, and I can't wait to see what he has to say.
Well, and is there a way to give to all of these things without being, because we do have people who listen, all over the country. So is there some ways that people can give to it?
I have the Run to the Cross has a Venmo, and it is Run2TheCross -DW, Denise Willingham. So they'll, but anyway, that we do have a Venmo, and you can do that to support that, as well as through our website, either one.
That's awesome.
Well, I know, Miss Denise, we like to say on here that God shows up and he shows out. But what is the goal for this year's? How much money are y'all looking to raise?
Well, we always go for more than last year.
That's right.
I mean, 50,000 would be just awesome. If we make that, that would be awesome. And, God can do it. He can do it. I'll tell you, somebody every year that you don't know or that you don't expect to get a check from, and that has had a family member that has been affected by addiction, or just the way we're all connected. We're just all connected in some way, and everybody knows somebody who struggled, and it's just amazing. God's just an amazing God to help us all.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We like to wrap up our show with some fun questions to get to know you a little more personally. And so I'll jump in here. What is your most rewatched movie?
Well, women never get the controls of the TV. I'm the same way. So my most rewatched movies are whatever David's rewatched movies are. So I would say Pearl Harbor, Midway, Shawshank Redemption. Yeah. Those are our most watched movies.
That's awesome.
So you talked about TV and the remote and everything, but if there was a canceled TV show that you could bring back, we got to hear what Josh and Ginger had to say, but what would your show be?
Everybody Loves Raymond.
That's a new one.
That we haven't gotten that one yet, but I love it.
Yeah. That's what we watch, a lot of the reruns, of that one.
That's cool. That's cool.
That is.
But thank you for taking time out to be with us and to share your great attitude and what God has done through you and your friends, and taking that time to share that with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com, and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.